I've been driving all night, my hands wet on the wheel.
One song, 1 year, then silence. Some bands only get one shot at glory, one chance to shine on the radio. Then the world moves on. But here's what you don't know. Some of these one-hit wonders wrote music that changed rock forever. Bands that toured for years, poured out their souls, and still got forgotten. You think you know these songs. You don't know the story behind them.
Serves them whiskey and wine. They say Brandy.
10 rock legends, 10 rises, 10 falls. This is the truth behind the music you never forgot. Number 10. Norman Greenbaum, Spirit in the Sky. You know this one the second the guitar hits. That fuzzy, gritty sound. It feels like a church and a highway at the same time. Holy, but dirty. Like something a preacher and a biker could both nod their heads to. Close your eyes and picture it. A dusty road, a radio crackling through an old speaker, and that guitar buzzing to life like it's alive. Norman Greenbaum recorded this in 1969, and it hit big in 1970. He wasn't even a religious man. He grew up in a Jewish family in Massachusetts. Far from the gospel sound this song became known for. But he watched a cowboy show on television where a singer talked about dying with his boots on and going to spirit in the sky. That one line stuck in his head for years, quietly, like a seed waiting for rain. He sat down one day, picked up a guitar, and wrote the whole song in about 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a song that would outlive almost everyone who ever heard it on the radio that year. The fuzz-tone guitar sound was almost an accident. His guitarist rigged up a homemade fuzz box because they couldn't afford a real one from a music store. Money was tight. The whole recording had that scrappy, do-it-yourself feeling running through it. That raw, buzzing tone became one of the most sampled and covered guitar sounds in rock history. The song sold over 2 million copies and became a gold record. It has shown up in dozens of films and shows ever since, from car commercials to movie soundtracks, introducing new generations to a song they didn't know was already 50 years old. Here's the part most fans never hear, and it's the saddest part of this whole story. Norman never had another hit after this. Not close. He tried for years. He recorded more music through the 1970s, chasing that same lightning, but nothing landed the same way. Some say the label lost interest once the single cooled off, moving their money and attention to newer artists. Others say lightning like that only strikes once, no matter how hard you chase it. Either way, the man who wrote one of the most played rock songs in history spent the rest of his career watching other people get famous off his sound. His fuzz tone copied, his formula studied, while his own name slowly faded from the marquee. That's the tragedy of a one-hit wonder. The whole world sings along, but almost nobody remembers your name. Norman Greenbaum gave the world a piece of eternity, and the world barely gave him a second chance. Up next, a song about a color and a feeling that most people can't even explain, but everybody remembers humming. Number 9. Sugarloaf, Green-Eyed Lady. Picture a smoky bar in 1970. Thick air, neon signs buzzing outside the window, a Hammond organ rolling low and heavy, almost hypnotic, filling every corner of the room. That's the feeling of this track. It doesn't rush, it grooves. It pulls you in slow, like a hand reaching out of the dark, asking you to just sit still and listen for a minute. The band was from Denver, Colorado, far from the usual music industry centers, like New York or Los Angeles. Their keyboard player, Jerry Corbetta, wrote most of the music around that organ riff, building the whole song from the inside out, starting with the sound rather than the words. The label was Liberty Records, later folded into United Artists during one of the many corporate mergers that reshaped the music business in that era. The song hit the top 10 in 1970, and it became a rock radio staple almost overnight. Especially with FM stations who loved that long instrumental groove in the middle, the kind of groove that gave a late-night DJ room to breathe between songs. The lyrics are simple on the surface. A man is chasing a woman he can't quite catch, and the green-eyed lady becomes almost a symbol of something bigger.
Green-eyed lady passion.
Freedom, temptation, the chase itself, the thing you want most because you can never fully hold on to it. Underneath the groove, there's a real ache in that song, a longing that a lot of listeners at the time understood in their own lives. Here's a detail most people don't know. The full album version runs past 6 minutes, way longer than what radio usually allowed at the time. Stations had to edit it down just to fit their format, cutting whole sections of that organ solo that fans loved most. And even then, some DJs played the long version anyway because listeners kept calling in asking for more of that organ solo, flooding the request lines night after night. So why did Sugarloaf fade? Timing hurt them badly. Right as this song was climbing, heavier rock and the rise of arena bands started taking over the charts, pushing smoother, groove-based rock further into the background. Sugarloaf tried again years later with another song, one that even poked fun at their own struggle to get radio play, but it never reached the same heights as this one. The band kept playing live for years, chasing ballrooms and small clubs, but radio had already moved on without them, the way it always does. If you were driving in 1970 with the windows down, this was probably playing. Let's keep going.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow. You're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. Number 8. Mountain, Mississippi Queen. This one hits like a hammer. That cowbell intro, that thick, heavy guitar tone rolling out of the speakers like smoke off a stage. You can almost smell the sweat off the crowd. This is the sound of a biker bar and a summer festival crammed into one 3-minute song, loud enough to rattle your ribs.
Mississippi Queen, call me everything.
Mountain was fronted by guitarist Leslie West, a big man with an even bigger guitar tone, a sound so heavy it practically shook the walls of every club they played. Beside him stood bassist Felix Pappalardi, who had already worked with Cream as a producer, bringing serious studio experience into a band built for pure raw power.
Way down around Vicksburg.
The song came out in 1970 on Windfall Records. The story goes that the band actually wrote the song after hearing about a woman from Mississippi at a bar in Canada, and the lyrics turned into a tale of a wandering, wild woman nobody could pin down, someone who lived exactly like the music sounded, loud and untamed.
Round Louisiana way, met a Cajun lady.
That cowbell sound wasn't even planned. It came from a drummer using a cowbell as a spare piece of equipment during rehearsal, just something within reach. And it stuck so hard it became the song's signature, the very first sound you hear before anything else kicks in. Mississippi Queen became one of the most influential riffs in early hard rock.
Call her Mississippi Queen.
Bands that came after, heavy rock and even early metal groups, pointed to this song as proof that a simple riff and raw power could carry a whole track without needing anything fancy layered on top. But Mountain never matched this moment again on the charts.
No, she wasn't dancer. Ooh, better, oh, what a
Leslie West had serious health struggles for years afterward, including diabetes, that eventually led to the loss of part of his leg later in life. A heavy price paid by a man who gave everything to his guitar. The band broke up, reformed, broke up again, caught in the same cycle so many hard rock bands of that era fell into. Musicians respected them deeply behind the scenes, even as casual radio listeners slowly forgot the name behind the riff. That's the cruel part of rock and roll. Sometimes the artists who influence the most people get remembered the least. Coming up, a song about a sign and a fight against rules that still feels true today. Number 7. 5-man electrical band, Signs.
And the sign said, long-haired freaky people need not apply.
Everybody knows this chorus. Sign, sign, everywhere a sign. It sounds almost like a chant, doesn't it? Like something a crowd would shout back at a protest, fists in the air, voices cracking from yelling it so many times in one afternoon.
So I tuck my hair up under my hat, and I'm in.
This Canadian group wrote the song in 1970, but it didn't hit big in the United States until 1971, after Lionel Records picked it up for wider release, giving it a second life south of the border. Songwriter Les Emerson wrote it after literally getting frustrated by no trespassing and keep out signs. while walking through his own neighborhood, feeling boxed in by rules that seemed to multiply everywhere he looked. The lyrics became a symbol for an entire generation pushing back against rules, restrictions, and closed doors, both literal and social, at a time when young people everywhere were questioning the world their parents had built for them. It became an anthem for young people who felt boxed in by authority during a time of huge cultural change. Played at gatherings and marches where people wanted a song that spoke their frustration out loud. Decades later, Tesla covered the song in the 1990s and brought it to a whole new audience who had no idea it was originally a Canadian rock band from the early 70s. A strange twist where the cover became more famous to younger listeners than the original ever was. Here's something most fans miss. The original band never got proper credit in a lot of people's minds, because so many listeners only know the newer cover version. The original members watched their own song become more famous through someone else's voice. A strange kind of heartbreak. Hearing your own words sung by someone else and getting none of the recognition. Five-man electrical band tried to follow it up, but the moment had passed. The protest energy that made the song huge started fading as the decade moved forward, and radio moved towards smoother, softer rock sounds, leaving that raw, defiant edge behind. If you are enjoying this deep dive so far, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps this channel keep digging up these hidden stories. Number 6. Focus. Hocus Pocus. This one is wild, and I mean that literally. Yodeling, screaming, a guitar riff that speeds up like a runaway train picking up speed down a mountain. If you've never heard it, you're about to be shocked that this came out of the 70s rock scene at all. Focus was a progressive rock band out of the Netherlands. Guitarist Jan Akkerman and keyboardist Thijs van Leer built this instrumental in 1971 on the Imperial label overseas, and it crossed over to American audiences by 1973. A strange, delayed journey across the ocean before it finally caught fire. Most of the song has no real lyrics at all, just wild yodeling and screaming vocals layered over blazing guitar and organ work. It became one of the strangest top 10 hits of the whole decade. And honestly, one of the most technically impressive. A song that sounded like nothing else on the radio at the time. Musicians respected this song deeply because of the sheer skill it took to play. Guitar teachers still use parts of this song today to test a student's speed and precision. Decades after it first came out, it has been called one of the most virtuosic rock instrumentals ever recorded, admired more inside music schools than on casual radio dials. Here's a fun detail. The band recorded multiple different tempo versions of the track, and the fast, wild version that became the hit was almost released as a slower, calmer cut instead. Thankfully, the more energetic version made it to radio. The version with all that manic energy that made it impossible to ignore. Focus never landed another song like this in America. Progressive rock started shifting toward longer, more complex albums instead of short radio singles. And Focus leaned into that direction, instead of chasing another hit, prioritizing artistic ambition over another shot at the charts. Respected by musicians, forgotten by casual radio listeners, a fate many gifted bands quietly share. Next up is a song so controversial it got pulled from radio stations across the country. I'll break down exactly what happened when we get there. Number 5. The Boys, Timothy. Get ready, because this next story is dark. This is the song I mentioned earlier, the one that caused real controversy. Some radio stations flat out refused to play it once they understood what it was really about, and that refusal changed the whole path of this song forever. The Boys were a group from Pennsylvania, young musicians hoping for their first real shot at national attention. This song came out in 1971 on Scepter Records, written by a young songwriter named Rupert Holmes, before he became famous years later for a completely different kind of hit song about a very different kind of relationship. The lyrics tell a story about 3 miners trapped after a mine collapse deep underground, and only 2 of them come out alive. The song never says it outright, but the strong implication is cannibalism, that the surviving miners survived by eating their trapped friend Timothy, a horrifying idea hidden inside a melody that almost sounds cheerful if you're not paying close attention. Some people say the label actually wanted controversy on purpose, hoping it would create buzz and get the song banned, which would then drive curiosity and sales, a calculated risk in an industry that sometimes thrives on shock. In interviews over the years, it's been said the writer intended it as dark, almost horror movie storytelling set to a catchy melody, never expecting real backlash from radio programmers and worried parents. There are different versions of the story about how much of the shock value was planned versus accidental, and after all these years, nobody agrees completely on which version is true. What we do know is that several radio stations pulled the song once they realized the lyrics' meaning, and some markets refused to play it at all, treating it almost like forbidden material. That kind of controversy in the early 70s could kill a song's momentum fast, since radio play was almost the only way listeners discovered new music at that time, long before anyone could just search a song up themselves. But in other markets, the ban actually worked in the song's favor. People heard about the controversy through word of mouth, went looking for the song out of pure curiosity, wanting to hear for themselves what all the fuss was about. And it still managed to crack the top 20 nationally, despite entire regions refusing to touch it. This is why the song still gets talked about decades later. It wasn't just a catchy tune. It became a symbol of how far a rock song could push a story, and how quickly the industry could turn on something it found uncomfortable, pulling support the moment a song made people squirm. The controversy pushed it underground in some cities, while making it a cult favorite in others. splitting the country almost into two separate reactions to the same 3 minutes of music. That mix of fear and fascination is exactly why people still bring this song up in music history conversations today, whispering about it like an old dark secret from a simpler sounding decade. That's why this tune isn't just music, it's history. We're halfway through this countdown. Which song has hit you hardest so far? Drop it in the comments, I want to know. Number 4. Argent. Hold Your Head Up. This next one feels like a rallying cry. That organ riff swells up like a wave, and the chorus feels like something you'd shout out with your whole chest after a hard year. The kind of song that makes you sit up straighter just from hearing it. Argent was led by Rod Argent, a keyboard player who had already found success years earlier with a different band called the Zombies, a name most rock fans already respected before this song ever came out. This song released in 1972 on Epic Records. The lyrics are about standing tall through struggle and refusing to let the world push you down. A message that hit especially hard for listeners living through the uncertainty of the early 70s. With wars, politics, and economic worry weighing on people's minds every single day, the song became a favorite on classic rock radio, and that organ solo in the middle became one of the most recognized instrumental breaks of the decade, the kind of solo that made people turn the volume up in their cars instead of down. It's been used in film and television for decades since, usually in scenes about resilience or overcoming hardship, the perfect soundtrack for a character finally standing back up after being knocked down. Here's something most casual fans never realize. The full album version of this song runs over 6 minutes. But radio only ever played the short edited cut, which cuts out a massive extended organ jam that the band was actually most proud of. Longtime fans consider the full-length version the real masterpiece. The version that shows what the band could really do when nobody was rushing them toward the next commercial break. Argent had a small handful of other minor chart moments, but nothing ever matched this song's impact. Rod Argent eventually moved toward production and session work behind the scenes, helping shape other artists' careers instead of chasing his own spotlight again. Quietly influential in a way most listeners never realized. Next is a song about the color of hair and a stolen moment nobody could forget. It's a bittersweet one. Number 3. Looking Glass. Brandy.
There's a port on a western bay and it serves.
If you've ever felt a quiet ache thinking about someone from your past, this song understands you completely. It tells the story of a barmaid in a small port town who falls for a sailor, but the sea always calls him away before she ever gets her happy ending.
100 ships a day, lonely sailors pass the time.
Leaving her standing on the same shore night after night, waiting for a ship that keeps leaving without her. Looking Glass was a band out of New Jersey, made up of young musicians who never expected to write something this timeless.
Come away and talk about their homes.
This song hit number 1 in 1972 on Epic Records. Songwriter Elliot Lurie wrote the lyrics as a story song, inspired partly by sailor folklore and old maritime tales he had read growing up.
There's a girl in in this harbor town and she works.
Tales of longing across the ocean and love that never quite comes home. The name in the song was originally different in early drafts before it became Brandy, chosen partly because it just felt right with the melody.
Laying whiskey down, they say Brandy, fetching.
Rolling off the tongue in a way that stuck in people's minds instantly. The song became massive, hitting the very top of the charts, and it has been covered and referenced by other artists for decades since.
Another round, she serves them whiskey and wine. The sailor,
including a well-known sample used by a major hip-hop artist decades later, introducing the melody to a whole new generation who had no idea where it came from or how old the original story really was. Here's a detail longtime fans love.
say Brandy, you're a fine girl, what a good.
The label almost released a different song from the album as the single instead. Brandy was nearly a B-side, a bonus track tucked away rather than the lead single, almost lost in the shuffle entirely. Radio programmers who heard it early pushed hard for it to be the main release. And thank goodness they did, because the world almost never got to hear this story at all. Looking Glass tried to follow up with more music, but nothing else charted the same way. The band broke apart not long after, the pressure of chasing a second hit pulling them in different directions. And Elliot Lurie eventually moved into other areas of the music business, including work in film and television music placement, ironically helping other artists get exposure the way his own song once did for him.
Brandy wears a braided chain made of fine.
Up next, a song with almost no words at all, but a scream that everyone still remembers. Number 2. Edgar Winter Group, Frankenstein. This one barely has any lyrics, and it still became a monster hit, literally. The song was even named after the monster because of how it was pieced together, chopped up and stitched back together in the studio, like something out of a horror story. Built piece by piece until it finally came alive. Edgar Winter, a keyboard and saxophone player from Texas, led this group, an albino musician who had already spent years fighting to be taken seriously in an industry that didn't always know what to make of him. The song released in 1972 and became a massive hit through 1973 on Epic Records. It started as a much longer jam during live shows, sometimes stretching past 10 minutes on stage, a wild, sprawling piece that the band loved playing live, but that no radio station could ever fit into a broadcast. When it came time to record it for the album, the band and producer had to cut the tape apart and reassemble it into a tighter arrangement, and that editing process reminded them so much of stitching together body parts that they nicknamed it Frankenstein, and the name stuck permanently, fitting the song perfectly in ways nobody planned. The song became one of the most recognizable instrumental rock tracks of the whole decade, driven by a synthesizer strapped to Edgar Winter's body so he could move around the stage while playing it live, something almost nobody was doing at that time, turning him into a strange, futuristic figure on stage compared to the guitar-heavy bands surrounding him. It became a staple of classic rock radio and is still used constantly in movies, television, and sports arenas today, blasting through stadium speakers to fire up crowds decades after it was first recorded. Because the song has almost no lyrics, some radio programmers were originally hesitant to play it, worried listeners wouldn't connect with an instrumental track, the same way they connected with songs built around a story and a voice. They were wrong. It shot straight to #1 on the singles chart, proving that a powerful sound alone could carry just as much emotion as any lyric ever could. Edgar Winter kept working in music for decades afterward, playing with various rock legends along the way and lending his talent to other people's records. But he never landed another song this massive again on his own. Sometimes lightning creates a monster hit, and then it moves on to strike somewhere else, leaving even a hugely talented musician chasing a moment that only happened once. One more to go. This last song is pure adrenaline, built for the open road.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. #1. Golden Earring, Radar Love.
I've been driving all night, my hands wet on the wheel.
If you've ever driven through the night with nowhere else to be but home, this song already knows exactly how that feels. That bass line rolls forward like tires on a dark highway, and it never lets up, pulling you along mile after mile until the song itself feels like the road.
There's a voice in my head that drives my heel.
Golden Earring was a rock band from the Netherlands, a group that had already been playing together for years back home before this song ever crossed the ocean. This song released in 1973 on Track Records and Polydor overseas before catching fire in the United States, spreading slowly at first through import copies and college radio stations before exploding nationwide.
It's my baby calling, says I need you here.
The lyrics tell the story of a man driving through the night, feeling a strange, almost telepathic connection to someone waiting for him at home, a signal only his heart can pick up. That idea, calling it radar love, became one of the most unique metaphors in rock history for longing and connection across distance, a feeling anyone who has ever missed someone while far from home understands instantly.
It's 4:30 and I'm shifting gear.
The song became a massive hit across both Europe and America, and it turned into one of the most beloved driving songs ever recorded, still blasted on road trips and used constantly in racing footage, commercials, and films about the open road, the perfect soundtrack for anyone chasing the horizon. Here's something most American fans never realized.
When she is lonely and the longing gets too much.
Golden Earring wasn't actually a one-hit wonder back home in the Netherlands. They had a long, successful career overseas for decades, filling arenas and topping charts across Europe well into later years. But in the United States, this was the only song that truly broke through, which is why so many casual American rock fans assume it was their only success ever, when really, it was just their only American breakthrough.
She says the cable coming in from above.
A strange split identity where one country saw them as legends and another saw them as a single unforgettable moment. The band kept making music for years afterward in Europe, but American radio and audiences moved on to other sounds by the mid-70s, and Golden Earring's other music simply never crossed the ocean the same way again, leaving this one song to carry their entire American legacy on its own. That's the whole countdown. 10 songs, 10 stories, 10 moments of glory that never quite repeated themselves. 10 proofs that rock and roll can hand someone everything for 3 minutes and then quietly walk away.